Okay, fair warning about this one. A lot happened. This could be a slightly bigger episode. We're here to take a look at Wistoria Wand and Sword episode 11, The True Name of Cowards. We pick up right where we left off last episode. The gang is getting owned by this evil Grand Duke, this big monster. He's shooting laser beams and magic spells and all sorts of stuff. But the group manages to run away knowing that they can't defeat this thing. While they're hiding away, they take a look at all their minions and demons and realize that they're searching for the group, and they're kind of being controlled by the evil Grand Duke, and no matter how many of these demons they kill, more are getting spawned all the time. They basically realize that they're trapped here and no one is actually going to be able to help them while the Grand Duke is alive. So Will spells it out. They need to kill the evil Grand Duke. He says he can't do it alone. He needs the whole group to come together. Of course, not everyone is convinced straight away. Lihana jumps aboard and so does Wignall. Scion actually thinks it's a good idea, but in principle, not because he wants to follow Will. Julius is having a hard time coming to terms with the fact that there's no other way out. So Will basically bribes him with a secret trick to one of Elfie's spells, that clone spell that Julius has used before. Will says if you join, I'm going to teach you the trick, which I don't feel was necessary considering they're probably going to die if they don't do something. Like, what was Julius's plan? Just wait it out? Yeah, so they come up with a plan that involves a lot of diversions and look over here tactics. They kind of make it seem like Julius is going to land the killing blow against this evil Grand Duke, but the plan is actually going to be Lihana doing it. But when she gets to the point where she's going to kill this thing, we find out that it's protected by this like magic barrier spell, and they suspect it's probably our friends Headless and Hoodie. I'm calling him Hoodie. They have protected the evil Grand Duke. So this kind of threw the whole plan off, and Lihana's actually in a bit of trouble here, so Will has to dive in and save her. He cops the big brunt of this spell. Actually, Kiki, the cat, the magical cat, throws up a barrier that softens the blow a little bit, I suppose, but Will gets hit hard and he actually has his goggles destroyed and he's really like knocked out a bit as well. At this point, with Will knocked out, Lihana says, look, you guys run away. I'm going to sacrifice myself. Basically, I'm going to die so that you can escape. Wignall decides that he's going to jump aboard this plan as well. He seems to do whatever Lihana wants to do, but he's also got a newfound respect for Will, and I'll get to that at the end. Sion's actually having a really hard time running away. He's trying to convince himself and psych himself up to run away, but he knows that he shouldn't. And at that moment, Will actually wakes up and he's shaking and trembling. He sounds terrified. He's telling Sion to hit him, which Sion didn't need much convincing on that front. He starts hitting him several times and sort of snaps Will out of it. And then Will decides to help Lihana, and then so does Sion. And once again, they're all just fighting this thing again. I don't know what the plan is now, just die fighting it. Turns out, despite their best efforts, it's no good. It actually has these really big wings and it can block like magic and physical attacks from them. So while it's got these wings, you can't kill it. Will knows this and decides to chop one off. Even then, Sion's throwing all this really cool flame magic at him and no good, can't kill this thing. And it's at that point when all seems lost that this crystal gets sort of thrown at Will's feet from up above. We look up top and it's Rusty. Rusty is saying internally, or maybe out loud, Will, please try to remember, it's wand and sword.
That's the name of the movie.
Then we get a bit of a mixed up flashback scene. We see bits of Elfie, bits of Will, and we see these two characters we've never met called Mercedes and Finn. I did remember their names actually. They're having a conversation about separating wand and sword, I think, and that eventually they'll come back together. And you see a baby, but it's not identified, but I think it's Will. It kind of makes you think that Will and Elfie are wand and sword. Maybe they're actually brother and sister. Do we have a Luke and Leia situation going on here?
That's impossible!
But this is like an epiphany for Will. Will tells Sion, light up my sword basically, cast your magic on my sword. Now he's got a flaming sword. And if you thought that would defeat the evil Grand Duke, you're bloody right. It did. And that's it, episode over. Now a couple of little things. I mentioned that Wignall has a newfound respect for Will. When Will was trying to recruit everyone to join up and fight together to kill the evil Grand Duke, Lihana puts her hand up first and then Wignall does shortly after and says, and this is a quote from the episode, I gave Will permission to touch me. Out of context, that might seem wrong, but if you remember, elves don't allow just anyone to touch them. They have to be people that they respect really highly. So before Will, only Lihana could touch Wignall. Now Will can as well. Another little tidbit we found out, the evil Grand Duke apparently spawns on level 25 of the dungeon. So these levels keep going. I don't know how far it goes, but at least level 25. That's where they spawn. And I mentioned Kiki the cat saving Will and Lihana with a barrier. Well, or at least softening the blow. This is actually not the first time this cat has done this. It seems to pop up just at the right time with a little magic barrier spell. So yeah, it's got a couple little tricks up its sleeve, this cat. Something I took particular notice of as well is when Will's goggles were smashed. This was almost like it changed his whole personality. Like he, for a moment, was a broken person. And he actually called the goggles Elfie's goggles. Do they belong to Elfie? Did Elfie make them for him? Are they like magical in some way? I don't know. But once Scion snapped Will out of this mini traumatic phase he was having, he was okay without the goggles, but yeah, there's something to those goggles. Now the end credits were different in this episode. We normally have this end credits scene involving Elfie up in the tower and little plushies of Will. This was different. This was like scrolling text, and this might be something that happens in Japanese media in general, but the text credits were sort of scrolling from left to right. So if I do that on camera that way, but yeah, they're actually showing text credits with just like a space kind of background, nothing really in particular in the background. This was very different. And the song that was playing in the background of these credits actually started playing in the episode, during the episode, probably around the time that crystal landed at Will's feet. Oh yeah, and also, what's up with the crystal? Why is Rusty throwing a crystal down? What's Rusty know? There is definitely something going on with Rusty. I've been saying that for a while. But yeah, the way they did these credits actually felt like the last episode of the season. Now I know it isn't. I know there's at least one more. Episode 12. And do you want to guess the title of this episode? It's Wand and Sword. I feel like this could be the last episode of the season. So very much looking forward to it, but also a little sad that it's ending because I've been enjoying it. I really enjoyed this episode particularly. I'm going to give this one a 9. It was really, really good. So that's it for this one. When episode 12 drops, which might be the last one of the season and last one of these videos for a while, it will be here. Cheers.